hit record. So as I said, thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your day. Today we are at the end of this semester, fall 2016. We're going to be shutting it down a little bit. I'm fine, but it's freezing in Germany. So we're going to be shutting it down for a little bit for the holiday season, for Christmas, give everybody a breather. Whether you're graduating and now you're at the end of class 3 and we need to start talking about job placement stuff, doing some portfolio auditing and what your next steps are going to be. But if you're going on to classes 2 or 3, a little bit of a breather before it's going to go quickly. We'll be right back up and running here in mid-January for our first spring 2017. I can hardly believe it. Spring 2017 semester is already upon us. This has been a tremendously productive semester, so definitely a big thank you to everybody that put in so much time and effort on these projects, from whichever class you're in. And today here we're going to do as we've been doing, which we're calling the Student Spotlight, just looking at all the different things that people are producing, and we're going to continue that here today. We've got a pretty full slate of projects to look at. We're going to start with some people in class 1, which is, as you know, the visual essay, which is proven to be one of the harder projects to complete on time. 6 to 7 weeks to do 30 to 60 seconds is pretty tight turnaround, and those of you in class 3 probably even feel like 12 weeks is tight. But we just want people to do a simple narrative editorial to get their hands dirty with direction, having to think about the music, think about the writing. And so as we look at the visual essays, that's usually my focus, is trying to see where people's instincts are as directors and how they're getting a feel for the style, for the design, for the mood, and things like that. So we're going to start in Colin Hesterly's class with Luna, and we're going to give her some love on her visual essay, which is not completed, but is a really good start, and she's got, I think, 15-20 seconds of completed animation. But I want to give her a pat on the back and some encouragement for her visual style, which I think is working really nicely, and sort of the direction she's taking it. So let's go ahead and take a look at Luna.
Nova and Finn are made of plastics, like many other things we use. One day, Nova is given a shower and placed in the recycling bin. But poor little Finn is just tossed into the trash.
So as I said, not totally finished, but I think there's a lot to like about what she's doing here. I really like the visual style. I like the music. I think the artwork really stands out and I think is interesting. This frame is working really well. The characters I think are cute. There's a lot of interesting different shape language here. So Luna, excellent job. Keep pushing. This is a great start to this. And I would just say to Luna, use this now downtime for the holidays to continue to push this across the finish line and continue your work on this. Some of the animation in here I think is fantastic too. I really enjoyed the water. It's really subtle. It's not over the top. But from a storytelling perspective, I think it's working really nicely. So give Luna some love on her visual essay, which I think is coming out really good. Okay, 1 second. One little housekeeping thing here on the stream. Let me make sure my mic is set up correctly. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Just wanted to make sure my mic was live on that shot. So Luna, excellent work. Really enjoying the design here. These are some really pretty frames. The color palette I think is working really good. It has a really interesting textural quality, which I think looks good as well. So this is exciting to see you develop from the first couple of projects and now into something that I think is working really nicely. In Handel's group, we're going to put the spotlight on Rick. On his visual essay, I want to specifically have you all look at the basic style and direction and then the mood of the film, which I think is working really, really nicely. And let me make sure I have his absolutely most updated H.264 version here.
There is a unique moment when the fall season takes its final breaths, just before becoming the winter. That small moment is the twilight of fall. Colder dews, longer nights, less and less bonfires that twinkle with the starlight. A moment, a final refuge, when the last leaf falls. A kind of beautiful abyss, like a lone fire raging against the dark, holding on for just one more night. A final harvest, yielding only a revelation that the beauty is that it is never as sweet as the living for the last night. The twilight of fall.
So a really strong ending too. Rick, that is, I'm liking the artwork, but the thing that really jumps out is just the super strong direction, sort of editorial direction, that you had planned all these shots, that the concept is super emotional, and you're talking about some pretty deep philosophical concepts. But, you know, as Katarina was even saying in the comments, really good transition. Everything feels really, really tight. And I usually ascribe that to saying it's good directorial instincts, that the bigger picture of how things are going to flow and how things are going to transition is working really well. And this was a super ambitious film on the timeline that we give you. And I'm impressed at the amount of artwork. Keeping it really kind of simple and blocky, I think, was a really, really good strategy on your part, Rick. But again, just some of your instincts at just the power of a single image. Some of the visual metaphors in here I really enjoyed. You know, talking about fall as this metaphor for death. And the music, I think, is working really nicely. And so lots of love on the vibe, on the direction. And so Patrick even here saying in the comments, quite an achievement for the visual essay. And I totally agree. It was a tight timeline. You've shown that you've put in a hell of a lot of work in the 7 weeks that we gave you to go from, you know, the seed of an idea all the way to this finished film, which clocks in at almost 1:20. So that is a super ambitious film, and you know, probably some little things that even you could see that you'd want to touch up. But the way that you solved so many problems in here of, you know, first of all, the design I actually think is pretty darn good. The perspectives feel really good. Yes, it's simple, but some of the core parts that need to be done well are being done really well. And so this to me is just a really impressive achievement for the visual essay. So super encouraged, Rick, and this feels like something that will sit in your portfolio really, really nicely and show a bit of your intellect and your directorial instincts, as well as your ability as just a filmmaker and a designer and an animator. So lots of love to Rick on that piece. Out of Ryan's group, we are going to look at two folks. First up, Maya Maria for her visual essay. So let me go ahead and pull this up. And my notes on Maya, on what jumped out, was the direction and the writing. So Maya had a visual essay that she titled Human 101. And it struck me that she had taken a lot of visual imagery around evolution, around DNA, a lot of seemingly scientific visual metaphors and representations. And the script then weaves in all these biblical concepts about, you know, dust to dust, ash to ash, nothing new under the sun. If you grew up Christian, some of those things pop out at you as part of the sort of liturgy of Christian metaphors. but kind of marrying those two between, seeing the concept of evolution, but hearing these biblical phrases, I thought was super interesting. So just the writing and the direction on this, I thought was quite good, as well as the design and the animation being solid. So let's go ahead and take a look.
The sun sets. A generation goes.
I'm just going to start that over.
The sun rises. The sun sets. A generation goes. A generation comes. And there is nothing new under the sun. No one can control the wind and stop it from blowing. Enjoy yourself while you are young. And when things are going badly, consider this. They have been designed so that we should take nothing for granted. You cannot get to the bottom of everything. You may wear yourself out in the search, but you will never find it. There is a time for planting, a time for uprooting what has been planted. The dust returns to the earth from which it came, and the spirit to the one who gave it. For God will call all that is hidden to judgment, be it good deeds or bad. No one on earth is sufficiently upright to do good without ever sinning.
So a really interesting approach. Again, I like the sort of
The sun rises.
juxtaposition between what the writing is saying and what the visuals are. So I think maybe a little bit of work on that ending. I always feel like one thing we should always emphasize is to try to land your film or land your story and really, really care about that ending, because it's so important. But from a writing standpoint and a direction standpoint, I really like Maya's thinking a lot, and I think it's just a really, really interesting visual essay. And getting all of that artwork and animation in the 7 weeks is also a really, really good sign. So give some love to Maya on her film there. The next person from Ryan's group is Mr. Williams Johnson, and let me see if I can pull up his most recent. And my notes on Williams, the things that jumped out at me was some of the smooth animation that was going on in here, which I like to see, because I know it was something that he really wanted to continue to push and continue to master in this class 1. So I was excited to see that, as well as getting it done, putting in the hours, putting in the work on what is a tight timeline. So let's go ahead and pull up his visual essay.
Hi, thinking about how to transform your ideas into an engaging visual piece? Just as foundation helps to make a better building, sketching your ideas would help to make a better piece. Start by sketching your ideas. Make a storyboard out of it. Create beautiful illustrations and animate with a good touch of soothing music. That's it. Now go ahead and make a piece of your dreams.
Kind of let the music play out there. So some really nice artwork in here, and again, just some really nice smooth animation. The concept talking about going from your sketchbook before you're going to build out a film or an animation, which is excellent advice. Like what he's doing with the colors, like what he's doing with the animation. Some of these scenes in here, I thought the artwork was working really, really nicely, and everything just feels good. So Williams, excellent job. It was a tight timeline. And it's encouraging to see you get that in, and seeing a lot of your improvement in animation is really, really encouraging. There's such a good flow to everything you had, and it didn't feel like there was a whole lot of dead space, and everything moved together really nicely. For the people that are here with us live, feel free to, it's always helpful for you guys to drop your 2 cents about each of these things into the comments. It's always interesting to hear your perspective at what jumps out at you when you're seeing people's different approaches, what you liked about it, so on and so forth. So feel free to do that. Out of Steve Savali's class, we're going to look at 2 folks. Marco, hello, sir. How are you? First up, out of Steve's group, is someone who decided to take their visual essay in a direction that we very rarely see, which is to do comedy, which is to write comedy and create comedy in animation. Now, I feel most people don't do this because it's really, really hard to write comedy and to animate it and to do comedic timing. And so Jessica Byrne out of Steve's group does, I think, a very impressive comedic take on her visual essay. And we're going to give her some love on the writing, which I think is really good. The artwork and everything is really simple, so it really is about the writing and the comedic timing. And her premise is a pot and a pan are trying to film a commercial for their own brands of pot and pans. And they're doing all these takes and they can't seem to get it right. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Introducing Le Flambe pots
And pans.
at a third of the cost of the leading quality brand.
Okay, cut.
I think you were doing it again. Mouthing the words while I talk.
Sorry.
Fine. Just go back to what you're doing.
Le Flambe pots and pans are designed with an ergonomic handle to keep you out of the carpal tunnel.
Okay, cut. What the hell was that?
I don't know, but it was painful.
The pots and pans are also durable and...
And very good looking,
Was that drool coming out of your mouth?
probably.
Cut.
Moving on.
Le Flambe cookware contains 0 parafluorinated compounds.
So you can still have your eggs sliding out of the pan and onto your plate. How do they do it?
We have no idea.
Le Flambe. Lightweight, durable, high quality, low price, ergonomic, and sexy.
So really good job by Jessica. Again, simple artwork, but the writing and that concept is totally unique. And give her some love on writing a comedic concept from the ground up, which I think is funny and clever. And the way she represented it too, I think, is entertaining. So, we don't see that a ton. Writing comedy is super, super hard. On the few occasions I've had to do it, the stuff that I came up with was, 0% funny. I think it's really, really hard to do that. So hats off to Jessica for kind of going down that path and coming up with something that I think is cute and clever and has a good comedic timing and sense about it. The other individual out of Steve's group is Mr. Matthew. And my notes on him is, first of all, the pacing and the vibe on his visual essay. And then again, coming back to some of those directorial choices that I think are working really good. So let's go ahead and take a look at Matthew's visual essay.
A brief history of stained glass. Glass preserves better than paper or canvas, making stained glass a unique window into the past for historians. It represents the largest historical record of the Middle Ages. The art form reached its height when it began to be used in churches and mosques across Europe and the Middle East. The glass would depict mythology, religion, kings, and carry stories through generations. A largely illiterate population would learn from the stories told in the glass. Before electricity, this was the world's only incandescent art form. For those reasons, some have called stained glass the television of the ancient world.
So again, I would probably say a little bit more attention on the ending and landing that ending. But the thing I really do like about Matthew's film is, again, the mood and the vibe. It's very simple. I think he had to, on such a short timeline, he had to spend a lot of time building out the stained glass because it's actually a pretty complex visual thing, I think, to build from the ground up. But the movement, the pacing, the music, choosing the, and Tom here in the comments saying, beautiful, great capturing the light. Yeah, having all this sort of dark negative space and the focus on the stained glass, I think, comes to that design principle of emphasis that we talk so much about. The film has a good, clear emphasis. Hearing the sort of men's cathedral choir, I think, kind of adds into it feeling relevant to the visuals. So again, I really like some of the direction instincts that we're seeing in films like this. So give Matthew some love. Katerina says, beautiful concept, seeing a lot of great moody work and some awesome design of composition here. And yeah, I think there are some good compositions in here as well. So whether or not he's going to make any tweaks to this, working on, I'd maybe suggest thinking about landing that ending. But again, a nice portfolio piece, and we'll have to check in with Matthew when he gets his final uploaded to Vimeo or wherever he's going to park it. So we're going to change pace a little bit here and take a look at what some folks are doing in Class 2. The second project in Class 2 is what we call the motion identity piece, where you start with a brand and you need to create transitions and create a bumper. The bumper is kind of the biggest thing. But basically, we want to challenge everybody to work with these real world brands and extend it into further animation, which is such a common work request that we get in this industry. So we just felt like it was important to put it into the curriculum for this program. The first person we're going to look at out of Lucas Brookings' group is Mr. Travis Krause. And I think we looked at his style frames maybe around week 8 or 9 or 10, but excited to show you guys where he's at in terms of his bumper, which I think has come out really good. His brand that he chose was Spotify. And so let's go ahead and take a look at how he chose to extend the brand.
Can you dance with a shirt? Can you shirt while dancing? Can you move with a shirt? Can you dance with a shirt? Can you dance with a
So I'm going to let that play through one more time. So again, we asked for lower thirds, we asked for transitions, and we asked for a bumper. And let's go ahead and take one more look.
Can you dance with a shirt? Can you shirt while dancing? Can you move with a shirt? Can you dance with a shirt? Can you dance with a
So this is a fantastic example of starting from a brand guide and extending it into motion. Travis has routinely displayed an awesome sense of timing, a really strong grasp on design and color theory and composition, but the way he's mixing it here with the movement and with the timing is really fantastic. Travis, this is an absolute home run on this brief. The bumper is absolutely gorgeous, has a very modern, techie, sort of edgy vibe to it, which I feel like would be completely in line with the Spotify brand. The transitions are super subtle and quick and excellent. And even the lower third, which the lower third is kind of sneaky in how difficult it is, because you want to default to these really simple things, and adding some variety, adding in some texture, adding in some visual interest isn't always the easiest thing to do. So kudos to him for building some really beautiful, complex, but still consistent with the brand lower thirds, which a brand like Spotify may or may not ever even use. But Travis, this feels like an absolute home run. I would be stoked to have this in my portfolio. The vibe is great. And this is just an absolute fantastic example of staying on brand, but adding in your own interpretation and your own touch of what you think that brand looks like in motion. So get that in the portfolio and then just wait for a call from Spotify, because it seems like they're probably going to want to hire you to do some work for them. So excellent job to Travis. We're going to stay in Lucas's group, and we're going to look at a few elements from Dieter, who was doing his, and we looked at his kind of early pitch boards, I believe. The Austin Animal Center. And he had a really clean approach to the way he did the brand, kind of flat layers and simple. But he also had some cute conceptual design early on about what he was going to do on the bumper, and specifically doing some character exploration, which I thought was really cool. And so let's go ahead and take a look at where he landed. And so first we'll look at his lower thirds and transitions, which are pretty simple but feel really good. And then we'll go ahead and take a look at his bumper.
I have a soft spot for Alicia, me and her out in the garden, hanging out.
Not too long into our morning, Sonny's.
I have a soft spot for Alicia, me and her out in the garden, hanging out.
Not too long into our morning, Sonny's howling at us saying she wants to go to the park.
He's very sweet, gets along with the other pets that we have.
So that's that portion of it. Again, simple, clean. He added in some of these textures in the middle, which I think were looking good. The brand is simple. And then for his end card, or his bumper rather, where we get that character design. So let's go ahead and... Really simple, really cute, but a novel addition to their brand that I think works. And I think was just a cute, interesting approach, which I think works really well with their brand, which is to be friendly, to be sort of positive. So excellent work there for Dieter. We're going to jump into Tony's Class 2. And the first person we're going to take a look at is Amanda Trovella. And my essential notes that I was making when looking at her work, the things that stood out to me were a really good style and design, as well as pursuing a motion concept that had, I think, a unique feel. That it's kind of smooth, simple animation, but it has a bit of a stop motion, almost animated on twos feel, which I think works really well with the actual design style. So let's go ahead and take a look at, and her brand was First We Feast. And no music, no audio, which she may or may not be looking to add. But I was really, really liking the look of this artwork and just the general vibe of how everything feels a little bit kind of like it's on twos, kind of like it's a little bit stop motion-y, like especially this beginning section. And there's a time and there's a place for that type of animation where maybe you don't want things to be sort of perfectly smooth and you do want things to feel a little bit choppier. But a lot of interesting artwork. She kept a consistent style. There's some really cool textures, which goes into their brand, which is sort of a handmade, almost kind of grungy feel to it. So excellent job from Amanda, and I really enjoyed looking at where she landed with this bumper. The next person we're going to throw into the spotlight here is Patrick Flaherty. And Patrick, I think we've been putting you in the spotlight pretty consistently on this motion ident because you were doing just some really, really excellent work. And I want to make sure I get your absolute most recent stuff. Yeah, for Alamo Drafthouse Cinema. And Patrick, I've been super impressed with the timing, with the feel, with all the texture on these bumpers, which I absolutely love. This is just some really, really excellent animation and design work on your part. But now, as I've seen you kind of take this all the way through, I think there's a lot to like about the way that you've also built some other elements for this movie theater that they might want to use.
How to get what you need. Step 1, write your order on the cards provided at your seat. Step 2, place card upright in the railing for your server to see. Step 3, raise a new card for anything else you need. Enjoy the show.
So I thought that was super clever. Patrick kind of doing this, almost a pre-roll for the movie theater. And here's some coming up stuff that you had done. Let me make sure I'm absolutely on your most recent, November 27th. So let's go ahead and let this run for a second. Some of these transitions that you had built.
Don't say a word.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Great transition.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Is it alive?
I don't know. Don't move. It won't hurt you.
Come up with the idea for the flux capacitor, which is what makes time travel possible.
Do it!
So some really cool elements in there. You know, you pulled out a lot of classic films, which is always fun to see. But again, the transitions I think are fantastic. So Patrick says definitely come back to a few elements. So let's see. Yeah, I don't want to miss anything. I think this one was kind of similar. Oh yeah, let's take a look at some of these transitions.
Where's your John at? What an excellent day for an exorcism.
You've been feeling strange lately, confused.
I'm frightened. What kind of a place is this?
It's probably some kind of hunting lodge for rich weirdos.
I'll buy a cup if you buy a box of my delicious Girl Scout cookies. Are they made from real Girl Scouts?
They're forces, inhuman ones, out of this world, and they're unspeakably evil.
So, Patrick, are you saying this is the one they're using now? Yeah, I think that's what he's saying, which is pretty cool too, which I think shows a good example of how your work on it, I think, is super, super on point and on brand. But, you know, the ident, I think, is working fantastic. My yellow rose when I created. Yeah, this is a really cool, I think, exploration for you to have in your portfolio of how you would maybe work with a movie theater, or even could probably extend to like a broadcast channel. So excellent work. Very much on point with what we're hoping, the type of development you guys will have to engage in. So let's go ahead, and that's it for Class 2. Now we're going to put a couple Class 3 folks with their thesis films into the spotlight. And first up, very excited to show everybody the thesis film from Dana. Now, Dana's put in so much work. Dana has grown so much. It's really, really exciting to see. This is exactly, you know, the type of development we're hoping for from people who are incredibly new to MoGraph, that the learning curve is super steep when you're starting out. But to see the amount of work and time she's put into all three of these classes, and then see, it doesn't seem like she's totally finished. I think she's probably still making some tweaks on her thesis film. But her client, just to give you the context, is called City Harvest. And it's essentially kind of a food bank network that comes together to get people food. And I think a couple people had chosen City Harvest. Tom, I think, also was doing them, which is okay. We have overlapping briefs like that almost every semester. But Dana, the thing that jumped out was good, clean design, a clean approach, strong direction, strong timing, good animation, and a really nice ending. So seeing Dana grow as a director like this, and a designer and an animator, is really, really encouraging to see. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Imagine not being able to afford food,
Foodfruit.com.
even though you work full-time and live in a prosperous city. Over 30 years ago, a group of citizens became troubled by the number of fellow New Yorkers who didn't have enough to eat. So they enlisted friends and borrowed trucks to transport leftover food from businesses to their neighbors in need. This idea grew to become City Harvest. Today, City Harvest collects millions of pounds of excess food and delivers it to hundreds of community food programs across New York City, continuing to ensure that their fellow New Yorkers facing hunger have access to quality food. Join the food movement today at cityharvest.org.
So really strong ending. You hear the audio watermark in there, which is okay. These are working versions. It seems like maybe there's a few points where she's still just got some kind of placeholder stuff going on, but generally feels pretty polished. So again, on this timeline, I'm so happy to see working through all the different transition issues, working on what are your core visual metaphors going to be? What are you going to have a callback, which often gets talked about in Class 3 of, you know, I love this starting frame that then we come back to later in the film as sort of a core visual metaphor. And just a couple of scenes. The artwork is simple. But seeing Dana go from class 1, working through some of the early design, being really new to a lot of these different things, this is a really impressive, in my view, amount of growth and development. This is something that's going to be great in your portfolio, Dana. The ending feels good. The direction feels good. If you're going to make any tweaks, get that done, get that in your portfolio, because this is definitely worthy of sharing with this organization, which is doing obviously super, super important work, but also as a highlight for other organizations who may want to hire you, Dana, to tell their story and to share their mission with the world. So lots of love to Dana on the design, the clean approach, the good direction, the good timing, and a good strong ending, which I think is really just a great sign of somebody with a whole lot of potential to just make films like this well into the future. So we're going to jump into Matisse's group, and Katerina is here. Katerina, we've put her in the spotlight on a number of occasions for doing some really, really beautiful design work. Actually, I made a note. Katerina, we're going to look at your film last. We're going to first look at one of your classmates, Michael Smith, on his film. Sorry, Katerina, we're going to come back to you. Michael is doing his thesis film, and I'm not sure if Michael's here or not right now. It doesn't look like it, but maybe he'll check this out later. Michael was doing his film for water.org, and he was kind of, I think, early figuring out a 2D, 3D approach, doing some textured stuff with some flat design. And I was super, super excited to see his week 12. And I'm not sure if he's 100% done, but seeing some of the problems that he solved and how it looked early really, really, really impressed Michael with where you've taken this film from where it was several weeks ago. So let's go ahead and take a look.
At water.org, we're here to bring water and sanitation to the world. Because 1 in 10 people lack access to safe water, and 1 in 3 people lack access to a toilet. We focus on making water safe and accessible by removing obstacles, increasing access, and empowering people. We constantly refresh our thinking, fine-tune our approach, and seek improved ways to create safe water accessible. An investment in water.org is an investment in brighter futures. We've already helped millions. Join us, and together we can get safe water to millions more.
So, super, super excited, Michael, with where you were able to solve some of these problems, work through these transitions. The timing on this animation is really, really good. I really, really like... let me just pause here. So some of this early stuff with the 3D planet I think is cool and novel, and I think it's an interesting look. Then moving into the 2D sequences, loving the texture, loving the timing. Also some of the hard cuts in your timing, how it just immediately flashes to the orange background and you've got some smoother motion over top. Really, really enjoyed that sequence in the middle there. The color palette here is just fantastic. I think we geeked out a little bit on some of these frames even several weeks back, but seeing it all in motion, seeing the kind of oscillating textures that you put in there is a great touch. Weaving some of the 2D, 3D stuff, which I think in the earliest iteration of it looked kind of like, man, how's he going to figure this out? But really, really nice work in solving this and creating a unique look and weaving together different elements. So, and this part's really cute, digging the rigs on the faces there. And the logo animation's really good too. So right in at about 40 seconds, this feels exceptionally polished, really, really, really strong. Water.org is going to be overjoyed to see this in their inbox. And I think it's a fantastic piece of work to have in your portfolio. So Katerina says, great progress on this since we saw it the last time. I think we probably peeked in on him somewhere around style frames was maybe the last time we looked at it, but yes, blown away by the execution of this thing after style frames. So really, really excellent example. The flow is great, kind of that overlapping secondary animation with anticipation. There's just so much good work going on here. So Michael, the future is as bright as you want it to be. This is fantastic. So excellent work. So last but certainly not least for this week, and we're not going to look at everybody's work, but I will say, if we didn't look at your work today, and either you're done or you're still tweaking it, get it up on Vimeo, get it into your portfolio, and then share it inside of Slack. We want to see every single person's work on every single project, but just for the sake of time, on these spotlights, just kind of picking out random folks who either have good progress or we haven't looked at their work in several weeks. So Katerina, the thing that jumped out about me with where she is on week 12, and maybe she can tell us if she feels she's totally done, but I gotta say she's probably at least 90%. It feels pretty polished. And she was doing her thesis film for, was it the International Dark Skies, in terms of saving areas that don't have light pollution so we can see deep into space, which is an interesting organization. So Katerina, we've been putting her in the spotlight for some of the really beautiful design, some great compositions, a really interesting mood, unique direction, and now here I think I would add a really strong ending, which again is another just excellent indication of good instincts as a director. So let me make sure I have her, November 27th render. And let's go ahead and take a look at Katerina's film.
Dear friend, it took us some time to find you, and we finally want to give you the information you were seeking. We've watched you for a time now, and we trust you to keep the coordinates secret. We know you are like us. You want to save what we almost lost too. Our village is hard to access. It's what also protects us. We are a group of artists, scientists, and poets, and we can't wait to show you what everyone else forgot. Blinded by the light, they forgot to cherish the night.
Yeah, so IDA, International Dark Sky Association. So, I'll just echo the things we talked about in the start of this, just the beautiful design frames, really beautiful color palette, really great compositions. The feeling of light is fantastic. You had to create a lot of artwork for this, really novel concepts in terms of your character design, really excellent editorial choices in terms of some of these middle sequences, over top of the car and then kind of switching to underneath, I think is great. Some of the environmental design work, which is never easy, I think you did a nice job. And just the general, I always love really, really simplistic images that can tell the story in a powerful way, and I feel like there's a lot of those shots in here. So Katerina, this is really great work. Pat says, exceptional work, so beautiful. Yes, this is looking really, really excellent. So Katerina, I think you said you're pretty much done, going to be doing last tweaks today or this evening, releasing it tomorrow. Also, kudos to you for getting it done on time, getting it done inside those 12 weeks from the very beginning of choosing your client all the way through to all the design challenges, all the transition challenges, all the editorial, the music, everything. Really, really excellent work. And, that's going to have to go into, as most everybody's work, the student work archives and then your own Vimeo. And I'll be excited to share that and watch you get some love online for your many, many hours and weeks of hard work. So thank you guys for hanging out a bit today to about 45 minutes do another student spotlight. I'd like to say a heartfelt thank you to all of the students and mentors, for making the time commitment work, staying on top of these projects week to week. Students, sometimes maybe you had a mentor need to move a class, they got overloaded at work or they had something in the family. Thank you for the flexibility. Doing these live group classes can sometimes be a bit chaotic when you're working with real people and real schedules and not just, scheduled to watch videos or something. Thank you for working with your mentors and classmates, all the people who gave really meaningful feedback and encouragement. It really, really means a lot to people that someone else would take time to look at their work and give them that feedback. And thank you for challenging yourselves to grow, for signing up for a class that tries to just kick your butt and make you do, months and months and months of development, of writing, of editing, of music choices, of design, of animation, 3D, 2D, the whole spectrum, and starting with these creative briefs that put you into positions of having to solve every problem in a project. It's our hope that process, just the more you do it, the more comfortable you get and the more you can learn about yourself. What path are you going to take in this industry? It's not going to look the same for everybody. Some of you are going to go be freelancers and do, start to finish projects for clients. Some of you are going to go, work at Imaginary Forces and do 3D or do 2D. So everybody's path is different, but we try to make you do every part of a production so that you can learn those things and how those things work, but also learn about yourself and what you like and what you have a natural inclination towards. In between sessions, so Class 3 students, we're going to be in contact now, along with Austin Saylor, who now is on staff here for the job placement program, which is essentially we need to get an internal profile created on each of you to understand where is your portfolio at? Are you ready to start shopping your portfolio for freelance and full-time gigs right now? What type of gigs are you looking for? So on and so forth. So Class 3 students will get into that on a one-on-one basis. If you're coming back for classes 2 or 3, get some rest now, okay? So take this holiday season, look at the recommended reading on our website. Maybe there's a book you can now make some time to look at on typography or color theory, whatever it is. Go see a great movie. Just get inspired for another year of creating and grinding through these projects. Continue to use the student site and Slack as a resource. None of that goes away. It's all on, and continue to use that. Finish your projects if they aren't finished. Don't let yourself go 2 months if you've only got a final 10%. Just get it done, get it into your portfolio so you can really, truly rest between semesters. Track down your mentors and your classmates on Twitter, Vimeo, Facebook. I know we've been sharing a lot of our social links inside of Slack, but just make those connections. Follow people on Twitter, follow them on Vimeo, be friends on Facebook. Another big thing we want you to take away is connections and to begin to build your network. When we talk about career development, we always say it's your skills and your network, and a big part of that is network, having those connections for when job opportunities come up or when you make something and getting people to share it with you. So that is my brief advice for between semesters. But again, thank you for all the time and the effort and for making 2016 our best year ever by far, and very excited about what this is going to mean for 2017 and continuing to push. And we sent out, so someone here in the question, is this from MoGraph Mentor Class 3? Yep, that last film you saw was from Class 3 where they do a thesis film. That's about it, everybody. Thank you for taking some time to check out the live stream today, and we will, if there's no questions, no comments, we will just see everybody on Slack. And enjoy your holiday season. That's about a wrap on 2016. I think we have a couple of classes. I think Ryan's group is meeting one more time. But other than that, I think everybody else is pretty much there. But again, the Slack stuff's going to stay live. So, we always sort of trickle out for many weeks at the end of a semester. But be sure to thank your mentor if they did a good job. As we sent out the student feedback form, we're always trying to improve our process, trying to improve the curriculum. So whatever feedback you have for us, whether it's positive or negative, we honestly read every word of it and we value it, and the mentors do as well. So that's it, everybody. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you on the live stream in 2017. Thanks, everybody.